All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Reattack Wrestling Content. I am your host, Pete Kowalczyk, here with Leezus, Chris Lee. Chris Lee, man of the day yesterday. We got a bunch of reactions on Twitter. We got a lot of people liking your little soundbite. My left hook just went viral. Chris Lee's back. We're back. If people want a reaction video, and Ben Askren does, in fact, get knocked out during the Fight Club. You just hate to see it, but Chris, you called it.
Yeah, I think if you caught the initial breakdown video yesterday, there's a couple things that I highlighted, right? And I think one of the things that we talked about is when you think about Ben Askren's training and the stand-up training, historically he's done that at Duke Rufus's gym in Milwaukee. Duke Rufus is renowned for turning out great kickboxers, right? But when you think about that stance, I talked a lot about his hand trapping, which is really this propensity to reach out, close the distance, try to connect hands and not really close the distance with a jab or a head movement. When you think about that, it was easy to see, and it was apparent that if you left it out there, Paul was going to come over the top. And he did that, right? And Jake Paul throws this hard winging right hand. The first one misses. But Ben does what? His head is still on the line. He doesn't take his head off the line. And Jake Paul just reloads. Another jab, straight right hand, two-beat fighter like I called yesterday, and he KOs him. And I'll say the only thing I got wrong in the analysis yesterday is I said it went 3 rounds, not the first round. And my thinking there was Ben has to make it longer than Nate Robinson, and he just did it, right?
Yeah, he absolutely did not. And what he did do is come out looking like the Notre Dame Fighting Irish pose here. What is this mascot fighting style? Like it wasn't taken seriously. I was hoping that as a wrestling fan and as a wrestling guy, that Ben Askren would have at least showed up to come and actually be competitive. He was not ready to fight at all. And I thought, like, I looked past what he looked like on the scale as a big body myself, right? Like I looked past all that soft body stuff because it doesn't really concern me. But when it came to the fight, it was terrible. Now, from a Triller's perspective, the whole production was miserable. I hated the whole thing. And I am super happy I didn't pay for it. Hand up. Sorry, Triller. Don't shut me down. I didn't pay for it because it's not worth it. And it wasn't worth it. It was terrible. It was actually a concert. And the whole thing, I thought it was going to be some celebrity boxing fights. And I was like, okay, cool, man. Like, I'll watch it. That's fine. But as far as like a $50 value, it was a fire festival. This was a Triller version of a fire festival, and Twitter was lit up, and I was not the only one. And you felt that something weird was going to happen because the fight before Ben Askren was, it was a weird finish. Like, dude hit him in the ribs, and then he like phantom sniper down, and they brought up the backboard WWE style. Like, it was wonky the whole time. And for someone that a promotion that's trying to do professional fights, it was terrible because there wasn't any fighting. It was just a concert. And then we get Ben Askren, who everyone was watching, waiting to see what would happen because it's interesting and talkable. And they give us the viral moments. But like for wrestling fans, I said it yesterday, brace yourself, wrestling fans. This could be a rough morning, man. This is a rough morning for us wrestling fans, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I would call it for the most part a dumpster fire, right? I think I tuned in and there's a slap box competition with
that was electric though. That was electric.
That might have been the best part. That might have been the best part of
it. I agree.
Between the 39 concerts they had going in between and the fights were suspect, right? Let's just call it what it was. It was a suspect undercard. Regis Prograis, who's actually a good pro, ranked second at 140 in the world. He was the one with that body shot where it kind of got called weird. That didn't really do him service, but I think Triller needs to find their footing, right? Like, are you an entertainment company? Are you going to put on legitimate fights and boxing content? I think they're still trying to find their footing. And I mean, yesterday it was a hybrid mess for the most part. And if you tuned in for that main event, did you really walk away satisfied? Did you feel like you got your $49.99 worth? Like, a lot of fans don't feel that way today.
No, and I found a stream and I want my money back, and I paid $0, right? Because I can't have that time back. And the one thing I know for me is I was watching UFC and I was watching the fight at the same time, but I was much more intrigued by the Ben Askren fight. Even though Robert Whittaker's fighting, I'm intrigued to see what Ben Askren's going to do because I want to see wrestling represented well. He had a cool robe. He didn't get to wear the cool robe. Where's the cool robe? You know what I'm saying? He had like Rudis made his boxing shoes. So like it looked like to me that they were trying to take this seriously. At least on this night, I got Justin Bieber to lip sync Peaches, which was fantastic and electric. But yeah, I mean, the
hashtag blessed.
Yeah, hashtag blessed, dude. He killed it. You know, like Snoop Dogg was around, which is cool. And like the moment of Snoop Dogg yelling up, like, give me that money, Jake, give me that money, Jake, 2 million in the bank. Like that, Snoop Dogg saved the night if there was any positiveness to this. But from just I'm a Ben Askren fanboy. All I've seen him do is lose, man. Like I like followed him along and won, and which was awesome. And so maybe the UFC it wasn't his prime, but you beat Robbie Lawler, then you get absolutely viral knocked out, that 5-second knockout, and now you go out here and really the pride of wrestling is on your shoulders, and you're not even competitive. Now transition to this. Could this fight have been fake? That was my first reaction, because they set it up with the backboard, because the sniper backboard, dude's dead out of nowhere. Doesn't make any sense. So you're ready. You set that up, the lip syncing all day. So that's fake. They didn't even do a real concert. And then you get to Askren's fight and he gets knocked out. Now, what are the benefits to Ben getting knocked out? $500,000, right? Getting out unscathed.
That's the minimum payment. With pay-per-view points, it's looking like he's going to clear $1 million. I'm fine with that.
For sure. And for him, when we were talking about yesterday, who'd you get knocked out by? Sure. Anybody. Mike Tyson, he punched me in the face, 500K with pay-per-view buys. Sure. I'll take that money. No problem. So I don't blame Ben at all. I mean, I do kind of question, he didn't take the fight seriously. And if it was, I mean, like, could it have been fake, Chris? Do you think that's actually possible?
Well, let's go back to yesterday, right? When I highlight what I saw at the weigh-ins, like I had concerns when I saw the body, when I saw the weight. I didn't think the preparation was there. And before I even go into if I think it's fake, I just want to highlight one thing that nobody's talking about. It's customary in boxing to have representation from each corner when you're wrapping your hands. Make sure that there's nothing fake, nothing funny, that it's illegal wrapping. Tyrone Woodley, MMA champion, comes and he represents Ben Askren, and he's in Jake Paul's locker room. He starts getting verbally taunted. There's a guy that's like, what do you know about boxing gloves? You don't know anything about this. Now, to most people, they're not picking up on what's happening. They don't know who that guy is, and they don't know the significance of that moment. But as soon as Tyrone Woodley figures out who that is, he kind of shuts up. Now, who was that guy and why is that significant? His name is Jalen Love. When Floyd Mayweather started Mayweather Promotions, the first fighter he signed was Jalen Love. This is like the guy that he handpicked to start his promotion company. So I'm watching this. I know who he is, and I'm like, oh, you're poaching people from Mayweather's team? And then you've got Askren, like you're training with MMA guys at a kickboxing gym. So for me, like the siren goes off and I'm like, oh, like Jake Paul's taking this super serious. This does not bode well for Ben Askren. But let's get to was it fake? Do I think it's fake? So like background on me, I have probably over 600 boxing fights and boxing DVDs. So I watch boxing all the time, right? I have a high level of understanding of what good fighting looks like, fake fighting, bad fighting. One thing I know is there's two ways to get knocked out. You get hit on the jaw square, right? It disrupts the blood flow to the brain. You typically fall forward, you're out. But when you hit the ground, you come up and you're like, what happened? What happened, right? What happened with Ben last night is he gets hit with a straight right. Like when you get hit with that type of force, your brain slams into the back of your cortex, and it's called the fencing effect. Like, and I'm not going to get nerdy and into the physiology of it, but what you see is he goes stiff, his legs go stiff, and he hits the ground. When he gets up, he's not all there, right? And I think about the Masvidal knockout because it's important, and people aren't really talking about it and linking those two. When he gets knocked out by Masvidal, he's down for maybe 5 to 8 minutes. In subsequent interviews, Ben says, I don't remember the walk back to the locker room. I don't remember being in the locker room. My first memory of coming to is when I'm in the hospital, right? So he's up and he's lucid, but he doesn't remember any of that stuff. When you watch the referee yesterday, he touches Ben's gloves. He goes, are you all right?
Right.
But he sees the disconnect. He sees something isn't there. What he does is he takes a step back and he says, walk to me. And he's not looking at Ben's face at this point. He's looking at Ben's legs. Ben takes a step with the left, and then he goes, instead of straight, right, 12 o'clock, he falls to 2 o'clock, and the ref says it's done. You know, when you think about the Nate Robinson fight, Jake Paul puts him down with a hard right in the second. Ref says, "Are you okay?" As soon as he comes off the ropes, like Jake Paul KOs him brutally. So I think he saved Ben Askren from, a face down, ass up knockout, because that's where this fight was going, right? Jake Paul has that type of power. But if you can't walk straight, if your legs aren't there, you're out on your feet. And I think the ref ultimately saved him.
It's interesting to me because there's videos of him smiling with his wife right afterwards. And then I just saw a post press conference type deal with the video, and someone said, "You're going to get a lot of bad press for this, or it's undued or whatever." And Askren's like, "No, it's perfectly dude. It's completely embarrassing. I guess just got knocked out by Jake Paul." So one, I'm on the fence about it, but there's what I would say about, at least what I know about Ben Askren, is the dude's a showman, right? He knows how to sell fights. He knows how to sell himself. He knows how to get everyone interested, and he can talk really well for a wrestler, because most of the time we don't have a dynamic personality out there selling these fights. We need a mouthpiece for us, right? Ben is the guy that's able to do it, and that's why he was able to get that second run in his MMA career with the UFC. So
let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Can you remember a fall from grace like this? 4-time NCAA finalist, 2-time champ, Hodge Trophy winner, Olympian, Bellator champion, one champion. He retires undefeated in 2017. Remember, he retires from one championship. You got people like Joe Rogan going on their podcast saying he's the one person that can out wrestle Khabib. He's the one that can out grapple Khabib. You got people saying that, he should come over and fight Khabib at 165. He comes in and everything after that first UFC fight, which in large part was, to me, a fluke to beat Robbie Lawler. I mean, I just can't remember a fall from grace like this. Like, do you remember somebody from wrestling just going from like hero to zero in such a short, condensed amount of time?
No, not like this. And I think the difference for Ben Askren is that he had the meteoric strike up, right? Dogecoin, right? To the moon. He was going up. You're talking about Jake Paul doing that. He was going up. He was on the rocket ship because it was all hype train coming in to UFC. And so to see the descent that is, they say, right, staircase up, window down, man, you jump, that was terrible. It's straight down from here. And I think this is it. There's no way that anyone's going to give him any type of money to be a fighter again. And he shouldn't be fighting. But this is what I will say, fall from grace or not, dude just made a milli to go hang out with Jake, to go hang out this circus of a promotion, get knocked out. It doesn't even, what is it, a minute and a half? 2-minute fight. That's all it was. And he's at home in Wisconsin right now playing disc golf for sure, counting his money. All that money's converting to Bitcoin already. I guarantee it. That dude went out ahead and bought 10 Bitcoins last night with all that money.
So there's a part of me that anytime you see somebody from the wrestling community, somebody that is put in the work, you want to see them go out with a big payday. You want to see them secure the bag on the way out. You want to see them get their just due. But what do you have to go through as a wrestler to secure that bag? When I think about paydays, like Jordan Burroughs didn't have anything that paid him this much. Phil Snyder, David Taylor didn't have anything that paid them remotely close to this. When you think about the lead up to the fight, some of the antics, I mean, there was some back and forth with Askren's wife, where Jake Paul sliding in her DMs. There's things for me that are off base, whether we're promoting the fight or not. And then to get knocked out, like, what does that say about the wrestling community that you have to go to those type of lengths where you involve your wife, where you get essentially humiliated in front of the entire world just to secure the bag? Like, I'm happy that Askren's financially secure, but at what extent do you have to go to get it? I mean, that makes me a little bit sad for the wrestling community as a whole.
For sure. Like, what does it mean for wrestling? My brand for wrestling, I tell everyone is that we're the ultimate tough guys. Yeah. Right. When I tell a young kid, hey, I want you to come wrestle, but you have to be tough to do it. And you kind of see, like, are they tough? Are they not really going to be able to handle it? Right. We want the tough guys. So for the brand of amateur wrestling in general, it is tarnished a little bit today because everyone's talking about how Ben Askren got knocked out. Ben Askren they're still trending on Twitter this morning, which is not good. I mean, it's great because it's like all press is good press. Right. And so for Ben, as a guy who's coaching wrestling, he's probably going to kind of move on. He's going to still do his podcast and with Flow Wrestling and still have the Askren Wrestling Academy. And so now he's financially good for life at this point. And I understand how it looks bad, but wrestlers making money and wrestlers being on TV and it bringing eyes to our sport is good no matter what. Moneybag Ben wins right? So Chris, like, who's the winners and losers of this whole night?
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, Jake Paul certainly feels like the big winner, right? I mean, like we
Yes.
talked about his brand creating viral moments,
Yes.
whether it's the Dylan Dennis incident, whether it's knocking out Nate Robinson. And I don't care what side of the spectrum you're on before the fight, he certainly looks like a legit fighter. Like he's going to have options, and he's going to have at least another $1 million payday in his future. So he feels like the big winner.
So you think Leezus is saying on stream, on podcast right now on the show that you think Jake Paul is a legitimate boxer?
So here's the thing, and like I see a lot of people poo-pooing on his competition. I would challenge anybody, go look at Floyd Mayweather's first 20 opponents. Go look at Mike Tyson's first 20 opponents. Like, this is the game in boxing. You get fed tomato cans, and you're supposed to build your record up. You're supposed to build your skills up. You're supposed to get that experience. Now, think about Francis Ngannou, who started boxing at 22, and he's the UFC heavyweight champion of the world today. Jake Paul started this journey at 21. So do I see him becoming a legit champion? No, but I think it's comparable to at least say that he has skills that are on par with an MMA fighter, right? And Ben Askren's not the example I'm looking for, but I think if you put him in, hey, let's say this fight. If you put him in with Nate Diaz, that's an interesting fight, right? Like Jake Paul has more speed, he has more power. I think Nate has probably a little bit better IQ and more durability, but that's a fight, Petey. Like you can't dismiss Jake Paul in that fight, and maybe you would have before yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on the style, but obviously he's going to stay in the boxing realm as long as he can, and he'll keep getting these fights. And I don't really know who would be next, right? And everyone's saying like a legitimate fighter, but it's going to be in Triller. And as long as this stuff is in Triller, like I'm going to always question it, because the whole thing is it's just weird. You know, it's weird. Yeah. I mean, like the slap box, I had no idea that was coming, right? I had no idea that Pete Davidson was involved and that Justin Bieber was involved and that you had Snoop Dogg and then Ice Cube was out there. I'm like, what is the budget for this Triller event to do this? You're paying retired MMA fighters to come for $500K. You're gonna pay him $1 million once this pay-per-view, but there's no way Triller made any money off of this. I don't think. Just looking at how much does it cost to pay Justin Bieber to come sing Peaches about his wife on your stream? It's got to be ridiculous. He probably made more than Ben Askren on that almost.
Here's something I want you to think about, and think about this from Ben's perspective. Think about this from Jake Paul's perspective. Ben's base pay was $500,000. Jake Paul's was $700,000. Ben's saying that he's going to clear $1 million after pay-per-view points. You know, if we use that back paper napkin math, like where's Jake Paul landing? 1.15 in that area.
Right.
You had a former UFC champion and Robert Whittaker fighting at the same time, getting less press, less visibility, and he made $250,000. Ben's going to make 4 times as much as an ex-UFC champion. Like, if we're talking about winners and losers, the UFC is a loser last night. When you look at that pay structure and that comp, Dana's saying, I'm going to bet $1 million on Askren. Hey, buddy, if you have $1 million to bet, give it to the fighters. You embarrassed yourself last night when you've got people for taking less risk and a less skilled opponent, making 4 times, 5 times as much than an ex-UFC champ. It's not a good look for the UFC.
It's not a good look for the UFC, and UFC pay scale. It's not a good look for the UFC in general, because really they don't pay their fighters. When you look at the other major sports revenue shares, right? Like how it works, most of the time the athletes get about half or close to half, right? It's right in there. UFC, I think, is closer to 20% or less, maybe even less. And these dudes are taking real risk with actual medical problems that could happen after these fights. And Dana White's just collecting all this money, and they're not even doing a great job of promoting these fights, right? Because it was secondary in my brain that there was a UFC fight. And you were like, hey, Robert Whittaker's fight. I'm like, cool, man, I'm gonna be watching Ben Askren, which is what it is, right?
But also Jake Paul.
But also Jake Paul, right? Because I want to see what happens. I was hoping that Ben, you would have showed up for the wrestling community, but no, I mean, and so I don't know what's good or bad, but the UFC is a huge loser last night because it doesn't look good. Because like me, I'm the target combat sports audience fan. I'm a former wrestler. I'm a wrestling coach. I love the UFC. I picked Triller last night. That's not a good look for UFC, and the dudes aren't making money. You're on ESPN Plus. I'm paying that every single month. You know they're making a bunch of money with Disney and ESPN. UFC needs to change something so that you can be more interested in their fights. Now, Dana White, do not throw 2 hours of concerts in between your fights. Well, I have no desire for that, but these dudes should be making more money, and there should be a better pay structure of some sort.
There's a good chance that Ben Askren, in less than 2 minutes of work last night, made more than that entire UFC card, and that's not right.
It's not right, but that's, I guess, like, that's show business. You know, like, is that the way? That's the world we live in. We live in a viral, NFT. Don't become the little bit. You don't want that 5-minute clip of you, or maybe you do. You know, I mean, how much money did Ben Askren make just by getting knocked out by Masvidal and now getting knocked out by Logan Paul, the other one that's viral as well, but Jake Paul, right? This is the way the world's going to starting to transform, because if there's more money involved and these YouTube stars, TikTok stars getting involved in these actual fighters or this type of thing, these celebrity boxing stuff, clearly this isn't going away.
No.
Because it's only going to be bigger. Now, I'm not going to be invested in Triller in the future. Go ahead, Chris.
You might. And that's why
why?
That's why I'm about
tell me why.
This is why I'm about to go to the crystal ball.
Okay, please. Let me hear. No, there's no chance, man. There's no chance they're making me pay $50, but I will listen to this crystal ball from Leezus.
If this happens, I guarantee you buy a pay-per-view. So, unbeknownst to the uninitiated boxing fan, one of the things Triller, and I have no idea how this was pulled off. Triller signed for his next fight a young boxer named Teofimo Lopez. If you don't know who Teofimo Lopez is, he just beat Vasily Lomachenko, who was the top pound-for-pound boxer in the world. Now he's signed to Top Rank. Top Rank is the biggest boxing promoter in the world. And when you talk about Triller's budget with Bieber and Ice Cube and Snoop Dogg and all these characters, they just outbid Top Rank. It went to purse bid, his next title fight. And Teofimo Lopez, the ring fighter of the year, his next fight is on Triller. This is insane. This is like groundbreaking. Like, imagine what's a great fight that could happen? Maybe Israel Adesanya versus John Jones. Imagine if Triller came in and outbid the UFC for that fight, and all of a sudden it's on Triller. To have maybe the best fighter, at least the best fighter of 2020, fighting on your card for the next one, that gives you legitimacy. I want to tell you what that leads to and why you will buy at least one pay-per-view from Triller. Logan Paul, Jake Paul's older brother, is signed to fight Mayweather. Now, he's the bigger fighter, but he's not a better boxer than Jake Paul. That fight, I anticipate, is extremely one-sided for Mayweather. And I think Mayweather lets him hang in there for a round or two and then puts it on him, right? It's kind of similar to what we see Conor, but he let Conor fade in the fifth and sixth round, and then you saw Mayweather pick up the pace. If Floyd Mayweather embarrasses Logan Paul, how do you not make the Jake Paul Floyd Mayweather fight? How do you not make that fight?
And
you do buy that fight.
I don't know if I buy that fight. Now, here's the thing, because I'm a Ukrainian. Melchenko, I watch his fight. I always watch all of his fights, and it was hard for me to watch because he didn't look great in that fight that you're talking about. He lost, and I didn't know that dude was signed to Triller. But what I'd like to see, if they're going to be a fight promotion, they need to look like a proper fight promotion, in my estimate. Now, I guess what's a proper fight promotion? Fight promotion is about making money, right? And Triller, they made money last night. So hopefully, I guess, right? Allegedly. Well, I'd like to see the numbers come in. I'd like to see what they actually paid people to be there, or how they convinced Pete Davidson to be there. Because Pete Davidson, even on the broadcast, is like, I'm trying to be a respected actor. What the fuck am I doing? Sorry for swearing. I might have to bleep that one out. But maybe I'm interested. I need to see Jake Paul. I don't know who it is. I need to see him fight someone in his prime. I need to see him actually fight a real boxer at some point. Now, they can keep building this. They let him go. You let him go in 6 months. He fights another cupcake type fight from some other sports world. But I think the retired athlete card is done and over with, unless it is a Floyd Mayweather. And it is an interesting fight, but is Floyd Mayweather is he going to fight someone that weighs 190 pounds? I don't know. I don't know.
Logan Paul's that big, and he signed to fight Logan Paul. That fight will happen in the next calendar year.
That's true. So, Chris, any other winners and losers from last night?
I think for me, what stuck out is I felt like boxing promoters lost. I think what last night showed is there's an appetite for boxing. There's an appetite for storylines, and for the last 5 years, boxing's been so segmented with top ranked fighting on ESPN only, and their fighters not fighting Al Heyman and the money teams fighters who typically fight on Showtime and PBC. So I felt like boxing was the big loser. I felt like when you look at the comp structure, I felt like the UFC was the big loser. And then the biggest loser of the night, if Askren's bank account is the winner, then his legacy is the biggest loser, because when you think about kids under the age of 18, they're all in on the viral moments. And Michael Jordan's a great example, right? There's more kids under 18 that are like, oh, that's the crying meme guy, than understanding what Michael did at North Carolina and the Bulls and this and that. Our memory is so short term, and we fixate on these moments and these explosive moments. What I'm afraid of is now Ben has become that meme for the wrestling community. He's become that meme for the MMA community. You know, I was joking, but before we jumped on, I said, you know, if AJ Ferrari is Mr. Fast Twitch, then Ben Askren's Mr. Slow Twitch. And like
super slow twitch
that came to fruition violently. And now it's hard to escape that. So I hate to see Ben's accomplishments and achievements overshadowed by these. I think the good thing is, when you think about his brand in Hartford, Wisconsin and Arrowhead, Wisconsin, where he typically resides, like those kids love him. The Askren, Academy is still going to go strong. So he's fairly insulated, but outside that bubble and especially in social media, like he's just kind of become the running joke between Masvidal and Jake Paul, and you hate to see it.
Yeah, you hate to see it. And you're right. I think in the wrestling community, we're still going to love him because his kids are still doing great things, right? Keegan O'Toole is one of his guys who just took third at the NCAA as a true freshman. And those guys are going to keep rolling out. They're sending like 5 or 6 kids per weight class to the next cadet world team trials event for wrestling. So he's going to be fine in the wrestling world. But yeah, I mean, wrestling credibility in general, we had to brace ourselves. We talked about it yesterday, and I think that happened. The worst case scenario I think happened last night. Yeah. He is a meme. He's going to be an NFT, which is tough look, right? Like he's going to be one of those guys, and I'm sure that'll sell for a bunch of money. Which, especially Ben being such a crypto guy, to see himself become a memeable NFT type moment that's going to sell is going to be crazy. So. He secured the bag, man. So good for him on that, and good for his family and getting that milli. But I wish it would have been a different outcome. I wish Troy would have done a little bit. They did. I mean, the production quality and whatever. I think it's just it was not, the promotion itself isn't for me. The slap boxing with Ric Flair, like give me a Ric Flair wooing slap boxing 2 hours. I would love it. I would be in. I would watch it. I'd pay $19.99. For slap boxing only. And that one bearded dude who I have no idea what his name was, he just kept saying, don't flinch, take it like a man. And then he slapped the shit out of that dude. I'm in.
I think you're onto something with celebrity slap boxing. I'd like to see a couple celebrities get slapped. You're speaking my language now.
Yes.
I'd like
now
to see
that's
somebody
something.
take on Terry Crews.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. Give me Dave Bautista versus Terry Crews in a slap boxing fight. How does that fight sound? Unbelievable. All right, Chris, anything else? Any final words before we sign off here?
My final words are, I'm going to go to the crystal ball one more time, and I want you to think about a couple scenarios that play out. When we think about Jake Paul, I think, rightfully deserved. All eyes on Jake Paul. He did what he was supposed to do, and he got a bad fighter out of there early. That's what you're supposed to do. What does he do moving forward? You saw Dylan Dennis, Conor McGregor's jiu-jitsu coach, say, hey, I'm going to take care of this bum. I'm not of the mindset that happens, but I have 2 fights for Jake Paul that I think are really interesting. So I'm going to get the drum rolling right now. The first one, Artem Lobov, right?
Okay.
If you're trying to get to Conor McGregor, this is one path that you go to do it. You saw when Khabib and him initially got into it at the hotel, Conor flew in the next day with 20 guys, and that's where you had the Dolly incident with the band. So if you embarrass him, you get Conor's attention. He just took a bare knuckle boxing fight.
Wow.
So like when you think about the pay scale from, bare knuckle boxing and the risks associated with that versus Jake Paul, he's also a smaller fighter, which you see Jake Paul's kind of looked at people that he has a physical advantage over. That's one option. I want to throw a curveball at you and just like end the podcast on this. Someone that has ties to Ben Askren, someone that has ties to the MMA community, someone that has ties to Chicago, near and dear to us.
Okay, let's hear it.
Someone that wants to prove that they're a legit fighter, and also brings the social media component that you need, right, to sell this fight. How about Jake Paul versus CM Punk in the next Triller boxing event?
I love
He didn't
it.
make it in the UFC.
I
right?
love it.
Go avenge Askren.
I
They
love
trained
it.
together at Rufus Academy and Rufus Sports. Like, I'd like to see CM Punk get in there. He's
love
at
it.
a decent size with Jake Paul, and he brings a whole nother following
Yeah,
outside of, just MMA, and the wrestling fans are more rabid, in pro wrestling sometimes than they are in amateur.
for sure. For sure. Yeah, they're definitely more
that's an
rabid.
event for sure.
Yeah,
People
that's
are
a
gonna talk about it
spectacle.
for sure. If you knock out CM Punk, I mean, sky's the limit, right?
Yeah, I would say Jake Paul is going to knock out CM Punk is what I would say, but I'm interested. I didn't see that one coming, but I'm interested in that fight, and we'll see what happens, man. I'm going to be interested around these Jake Paul fights. I think they've made a compelling case that he is now a legitimate fighter, or at least someone that is worth looking at. I would like to see him fight outside of Triller just to see if it's real or not, or they just keep bringing more guys in, but we'll be watching. We'll be looking for viral content. We'll be looking for wrestling content. We'll keep you posted here on the Reattack Wrestling Content Show. Leezus, thank you again. I think this is it's working, Leezus. So maybe in the future, if you come back on, if we have a big boxing event, maybe we have a UFC pay-per-view, maybe you come back on, give a little bit of more of your Leezus analysis on this combat sports. But thanks for coming on again.
Awesome, man. Always good to catch up.
All right, thanks, man.